Okay, it's 6 past, so I guess we can start. Hello, everyone. Good morning to some of you. And I'm smiling at Rymma. Good evening to the rest of us. It's great to have you again on our third onboarding session, which is this time with a special guest, one of the three guests that we are going to have this week, Rymma Milenkova. And it's so hard to talk about Rymma in the sense that she's both an artist, curator, educator. She's been working on so many levels with so many people. So I'll just give Rymma the stage in a second. In terms of today's agenda, we'll have the lecture until 7, I would say until 7, maybe 7 p.m. And then there is a Q&A session. So feel free to ask any questions. We'll be very happy to have like a really heated conversation about the topics that Rymma is going to be mentioning in her presentation. And later on, the Revitalizing Education group will have a session directly with Rymma. So we'll ask you to stay until the end of the meeting, because your group is going to have a separate meeting with our today's expert. So without further ado, Rymma, thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So my name is Rymma Milenkova, and I am a Fulbright alumna. And because I was engaged in my multi-directed activities, I came to the US, to Philadelphia, to study how public art, especially community public art, can be used as a tool for education and as a tool for social development. And it makes me absolutely happy to see how this wonderful idea can change the world, at the same time be so pleasant for everyone. Why did I go to Philadelphia? Because it is considered to be a mural arts capital of the world, because for now in Philadelphia they have 5,000 murals. And actually the first mural in Philadelphia within that program, within the organization which is called Mural Arts Philadelphia, the first mural appeared as a tool of struggle against graffiti, or graffiti, as we say. You can ask what's wrong with graffiti? Graffiti is also very often beautiful, but the idea, their institutional idea here in Philadelphia is people use graffiti as illegal tool. And it means even if it is very beautiful, you would not like to see a beautiful something on your car in the morning, correct? Like, this is someone's property, and sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes not. And if it is illegal and not regulated, the authorities told that it's not okay. And they decided to start an educational program for those people who were graffiti artists in Philadelphia. So it developed into a beautiful program which is operating for many, many years now, and has 5,000 murals, part of them made by those ex-graffiti artists without art education. They received art education within this program, and they received the permissions, and they were taught how to make public art. Okay, so first of all, what is public art? If you have any ideas about what public art is, you can just pronounce or write in chat. Just unmute your microphones and give me very brief words or answers. What you think it is?
Well, I would describe the public art as something, as some free exhibition, which is free to watch for everyone who is allowed to watch.
Oh, wonderful.
I mean, who can see, who can hear, who can smell, to anyone who does not want to pay money for museum. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, but that's a good idea. Yeah, wonderful. I like it. And actually, I like that you said not only see, but hear and smell. Because public art, it's not only fine arts like murals, mosaics, frescoes, monuments, of course, but it can be also something from performing arts, like public concerts outside of the museums, right? So we can divide a kind of site-specific or art-specific places for public art. For example, showing in the, I don't know, theaters, galleries, and museums. And public art is the art which is showed in non-specific art places like in the streets, hospitals, railway stations, and other public places. But it can be performing art, it can be sound art, it can be video art, anything presented in public. Okay, so I'm going to start with this beautiful picture of Stephen Powers, which is called Open Your Eyes, I See the Sunrise. It was made in frame of a public project called The Love Letter to City. And Stephen Powers, a very famous artist who works with letters and also murals, he was invited to write his love letters to the city. And how he did it? He took that long street along this railway lane, which crosses the street from one end to another, actually going through the city center, which is always beautiful and successful people live there. But actually the start and the last stop of this train, as usually happens, they are very distant places where poor people and underprivileged people live. And this is a very symbolic connection for the love letters. The interesting thing about this mural is that you can see it only for some seconds when you are in the train passing it. So you can't see it from the street, but the letter does exist. And let me please a little bit interpret it. At the first glance, maybe you don't understand what it is, but you have just to develop this narrative and read it attentively again and ask questions. Open your eyes. I see the sunrise. It means I can see the sunrise. I can see the beauty. I can see hope. You can't. But if you open your eyes, you also will be able to see it. And there is a lot of optimism here. So let me please here in this lecture or discussion, focus only on the murals, because the public art sphere is so huge, and I would just stick to this part, which I know better of all. Well, why do we have to pay attention to public art? A lot of scientists thought about how the space influences us. For example, a very fundamental work of Michel Desserteaux, where he approaches to every detail of our everyday routine life and how the space is built around us, how it influences us. For example, he pays attention at the numbers of the houses, of the trajectory of our routine walk to university or home. Everything what we see, it influences our behavioral health and our attitude to life. For example, he says that sometimes we are surrounded by numbers as we are prisoners. think about that there is a number of your telephone, the telephone number, right? There is a number of your house and your apartment. There is a number of tickets you have when you are traveling. And this number, for some short or long period of time, distracts your identity because you have this number, and the telephone number simplifies how people think about you. They just associate you, or you are associated with some numbers in your life. Also, a lot of fundamental ideas of Robert Smithson are also based on the idea that place where we live, it is also a piece of art. And we have to think about all the narratives it gives to us. I would like to pay your attention at public art functions. Imagine a monument or a mural. First of all, it is memory preservation or oblivion. Why do I put those two words together? Of course, we put a monument to something or someone to remember this person or this event. But at the same time, when people build a monument, they give it the function of remembering so that people themselves could release it and feel better and give the memories away. So this is a kind of passing the function of preserving memory to the monuments and activate the function of oblivion. Also, we always have to think, if there is something that tells about the memory of something, there is something which is always absent. And we have to think there is something, but there is something absent. This is makes us think critically. Of course, all public art pieces, they are marking the space. What I mean here is, for example, like, I don't know, it's a monument to Lenin in Seattle. It can sound funny, and people have a lot of humor talking about that small monument of Lenin in Seattle because it is not site-specific at all. It's just a joke how he appeared there. But the serious thing is, specific culture is marking the space with this monument. And what people don't think about very often, that monument is replacing something more important that could be at that space. For example, a monument to, I don't know, to Native Americans who lived there. So this is marking the space and expanding our political or different influence. Narrative reframing, you also know that a lot of decommunization monuments were demolished because of the narrative reframing. And sometimes people try to influence what already exists in public space. You know, like a lot of monuments were put with red blood symbolizing, red paint symbolizing blood, or night projections changing the meaning of this public art object are also very often used when people feel that they are not satisfied with the narrative. All public art also translates collective identity. It reflects and also influence, change this identity, because public art in our city and in our district, it demonstrates who we are, what do we allow to have where we live. And of course, everything what I'm talking about is about education, because only a sensitive and educated person with high critical thinking can be perceptive to what is presented in public space. And of course, as educators, we can use it as a tool for education. You will be surprised that public art is used a lot as a therapy, not in terms of using art therapy as only a process, but there are a lot of other aspects of therapy as the first point of this slide, like memory, delivering, and so on is used. And of course, everything said is working for the social development and for making the level of society higher on all aspects. Here is the example of the mural in Philadelphia, which is called Point of Triangulation. And it's not like two images, one above another. They are separate images made on the bridge, and they are opposing each other. They are from different sides. Here you can see people, real people, who were incarcerated, who were in prison for different crimes. And this mural is working with stigma. How people can survive when they have the stigma, for example, of being a murderer, and how can society invite those people, communicate and make them active and influential if they have already those stigmas. They spend dozens of years in prisons, but then they come back to society and the society doesn't know how to deal with this. So at the other side of the mural, the part at the bottom, always resilient, it is showing the same people, how they reached the high results in their lives, being now businessmen and influencers and artists. And the words which are used there, like catalyst, living testimony, dignity, prosperity, and so on, they are the words of those specific people who pronounced what helped them to go to prosperity. And usually in Philadelphia, these kind of projects, public art murals, they are made during 8 or 10 months, because a lot of people are involved, a lot of brainstorming of society, of people who live in this district, a lot of research is made, and all people involved in this research and educational programs, they become, you know, they make the advocacy for this project because they know exactly how the things are. Because the sphere of incarcerated people who come back to society, it's a kind of sphere people don't want to talk about. It's a gray space, it's a silent space. And only educating people what is happening can help us to live together with such people. I would also like to tell you about the project, which is called Porch Light. So the light in the window, as we could say. It was a huge project which was made in poor neighborhoods and for schools in poor neighborhoods, as well as prisons, hospitals, and other public spaces for people who were underprivileged. Because migration, drugs, poverty, discrimination, everything leads to tragic results. For example, it influences, of course, the level of committing suicides in the city. So this program was made to support people, to educate how they can survive. And the most interesting thing I would like to mention about this project is that here in Philadelphia, they decided to evaluate how art, public art, can influence society. This is a revolutionary thing, I think, for Europe, because they ask Yale School of Medicine to make an evaluation how art in public spaces influences people. And yeah, and there are very, very convincing results. This mural is devoted to refugees who escape their homes and the communities which are ready to take them and give them their hands of help. This mural about different nations and people in society, in this community who live around this wall, they were invited to tell their stories. In this long-term project, they were telling each other stories about what countries they came from, how it happened with them, and whether there was a person to support them or not. There are real photographs in the left bottom of this mural with real people. Some of them are alive, some of them didn't survive while being refugees. And it was also an educational project for those people who lived in that neighborhood. So, as I mentioned about Yale School of Medicine evaluation, you can see that they made a very serious research about public art and its influence. Well, the research was based on the theory of changes. And it was focused on some people characteristics, some characteristics of the neighborhoods where people live, how the neighborhood is organized, what kind of aesthetics people have in this neighborhood. And they also analyzed the level of psychological or mental problems people have. So the result was significant only after more than two murals appeared in the neighborhood. And it shows much more increased awareness of any problem they worked with. Significantly, so we mean more than 30% higher level of connection of neighborhood residents. It is very important because people can help each other. Significantly higher level of aesthetics, which influences the safety in neighborhood. So you can just imagine that you are walking along the street with the dark brick buildings which are half destroyed. And of course, you feel not confident because there are a lot of drug addicts and homeless people there, and the crime level is very high. But when murals appear on the walls and people work on murals during months, first of all, you see another aesthetic picture. It is very bright. Then, when the project is fulfilled, the community is asking the government to make night lights there and to make it safer. So the inner perception of everyone is showing that people feel more confident and safe in those communities. Reduce stigma, mental health, and drug addictions among neighborhood residents. Reduce stigma means that students are not avoiding visiting schools. People are committing less suicides. There is much lower alcohol consumption when you reduce stigma. And this is how everything is happening during the projects. This is the picture made in one of the schools. And just as an example, those students were learning environmental issues. And during this mural making, which is absolutely necessary, should be organized as a multi-agent project. I mean that multiple agents are teachers, participants, local authorities, psychologists, and professional artists who work with the kids, with the students. So it was the program devoted to environmental issues, awareness. And those students, they learned about the environmental changes together with the school teachers at their major subjects and doing extracurricular after school with the painters and making their own project researches. So they were researching the natural plants characteristic for this territory where they live, which of them are disappearing and which of them can be found here, and how they form the climate and they influence what we see around us. Because as you know, there were a lot of researches showing that if one plant disappears, the total landscape changes absolutely. So this is another project. This is a project made at school in a very poor neighborhood. And this wall was absolutely depressing, dark wall. This is the wall the infant school students are watching from the school windows. So like we are here sitting at their school and we saw absolutely dark old brick wall. And those kids, they didn't feel even safe in this environment. So together with the teachers and school authorities, artists asked every kid to think what inspires them in education and what inspires them every morning, get up, be dressed and go to school. And every kid was discussing with parents and with teachers all those issues, with psychologists, of course. And everyone brought a lot of drawings for the artists, and they were coloring together, and everyone depicted something beautiful, something inspiring to motivate students be interested in their study. And procedurally, as I was showing at the previous slide, then all the pictures brought by students are scanned. Then they are, if you understand the terms of Photoshop, they are pasterized. So you have simple colors to fill in, then printed on parachute cloth, like for the kids, you know, with those black lines to fill in the colors. And then students themselves, they paint their drawings, but in the much, much larger scale. After that, the parachute cloth, which is already colored, is sticked, is glued to the wall. So sometimes murals are made not with the direct painting, but with the participation of all people, and it makes it even more public. Here you can see the details the kids made, like meeting pets, seeing rainbow behind the poor house, dreaming about expensive car, and so on. So the details are very important. Okay, so what do they show? A decrease in the level of silencing of learning disabilities. You know, this is very popular at any age for any student, infant student or a college student. If people feel that they're not capable with this subject, they don't tell it because people won't support. Usually people would just think that that person isn't clever enough, and that is the problem. After participation in the project, the students were also ready to talk about behavioral health problems and rejection by family members. You know, it's like people are not ready to help with doing homeworks and are not ready to listen to your complaints about any problems of any level, including mental ones. That means behavior. And of course, everything as a result of this discussion during making a mural showed you reduced stress levels participants had. This is the mural I would like to show to you, which was made on the wall of a school. And people say it's a colossal mural because there are a lot of details there. This is a result of the whole studying year. Again, multiple agents like school teachers, painters, psychologists, and art managers were cooperating, and all natural science subject teachers were working with the students using different methods like visualizing what they learn. So at the lessons of physics, environmental studies, geography, people were making visual ideas, of students were making visualization of their ideas, so making pictures of what they learn, you know, like doodling, and then they combine everything in a huge mural. So you can see the ideas here from geography and physics lessons, like the planet, cosmological ideas, different flags and patterns of different nationalities, like the idea of the whole world, which is so diverse. This is the knowledge which comes from geography. And of course, they were working with the ideas of climate change and how climate change influences different territories and different nationalities in the world. As the result of the whole year, they made this huge mural. And you know that every point, every color, every brush stroke was made by the students. This is another one, which is called also on the wall of a street of a school, which is called micro and micro. So this is again about the studies they take at their lessons, physics, biology, chemistry, and so on, and students' visualization of the ideas. Of course, there is no doubt that while the students were working on the visual ideas of what they learned the subjects much, much deeper, and their idea visualized of everything on the micro level was much, much deeper than with this, in comparison with the students who just read the text, for example, and passed their tests. It was also a school initiative. All over the city, there were mini murals made by the school children or students during the COVID, making a kind of propaganda or for sanitation during COVID. And of course, local authorities, they supported this project and they put sanitizing machines near those mini murals. But it's not only influence on the passerbys, it is of course influence on those students who were involved in the projects. Actually, in Philadelphia, I also saw a very sophisticated mural picture. It was just a museum level painting. And there was also a small sanitizer near it. Another project I would like to mention, which is so interesting for me, was made in another city. This is the international program, which is called Art on the Asphalt. And this is the project of a company which is called Bloomberg Philanthropy. And in March 2022, they also published the report about this project of Bloomberg Philanthropy and Sam Schwartz Consulting, about 22 art objects made on asphalt on the pavements how they changed the life in those neighborhoods. Here you can see some projects which are already made and are planned to be made this year in Europe and America. And here is how it looked like. Children from local schools were invited to the places where there were a lot of traffic accidents before, especially traffic accidents with children and students. And of course, in the multi-agent model, as I mentioned here, they invited traffic inspectors, police. They learned a lot of things, how the regulation of complex places is made. And it was a huge educational project, which was visualized by the kids. This is how it looks like from an airplane. And just the kids learned how to divide the space into safe zones, unsafe zones, and those they can change their status. This is another crossroad in another city, but also showing where you can go, where you can stand and feel safe while standing on the road, not depending on the traffic lights or any other situation. And this is the result. The result is amazing because a lot of newspapers all over the world, they wrote that this is a ridiculous and cheap way how to solve all the traffic problems. So 50% fewer collisions between pedestrians and cyclists, bicycles. 37% fewer accidents resulting in injuries. 27 more drivers are honking, signaling when pedestrians violate the rules. And you know, this is very, very important because now drivers just let kids go. They just stop and let them go. And the kids, they think that that's quite okay, just to cross, that the driver is supposed to give them the way all the time, even if they are wrong. 25% fewer potential conflicts because road users. No shouting, like everyone knows what to do because pedestrians don't know their rules exactly, especially kids. They don't know them so good as drivers have to know. And 38% fewer pedestrians crossing the street on red signal. Okay, this is how it works. First of all, it is zoning. And of course, this is just a huge, a very deep educational program the students were involved in. Okay, this is an example of a school mural also. And I would like to tell you what you can do if you would like to organize this kind of project, but your budget is very low and is about nothing. My experiences in Philadelphia is, if you can't make a mural, I mean, you don't have money for a lot of paints, for all those equipment to paint on height, or you can't allow all those facilities. You can make a mural digitally, you can scan the ideas, and you can just project it on the wall to make one night beautiful projection on the wall, together with presentation, with a concert, with a lecture or any other educational event. Of course, we can talk about mini murals, which can be made also remotely, for example, just communicating online with people. It can work good with replaced people, for example, which have no connection with the walls in their own cities. You can do it digitally and then execute in different ways, like hiring an artist who will make a mini mural in their city, or just use it for sticker art, making stickers and putting all over the city with information about something, with educational purpose. Make a virtual mural, make a projection, as I said, make print on a bag, on a cup, or anything else. And as I have started telling you about the mural of Stephen Powers, remember, open your eyes, I can see sunrise. This is another mural of the same artist within the same project, Love Letters to the City. And the neighborhood is so poor. People are so underprivileged here, but those two bright stickers appeared. Goal number 1, love people. Mark number 2, remember, sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it doesn't. Okay, this is the end of what I planned to tell you about. So I will be glad to listen to your questions, and please organize artistic, creative projects for the sake of education, and for the sake of education which is not boring, but motivating. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rymma.
Thanks.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Thoughts?
Or
Remarks?
discussions, or you disagree to something, for example? Was there something you disagree? Just tell me.
I can start. Firstly, I want to say thank you, because as for me, public art is something understandable, but when you asked, what does it mean, public art? What does it mean, public art? So it's something new for me, and I found two important things for me. First of all, it's this idea. It's useful for city because it's more interest, and public art gives more motivation and more inspiration for public at all, and also it's good like free time kind for children, and it's useful, and it can be in Ukrainian cities. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Anton. Yeah, I have some experience making this kinds of community murals in Ukrainian city Sumy. We made, I think, 3 or 4 of them. One mural was made with homeless people who came to church, and we just brainstormed them about what they would like to see at the wall next to the church, where they come to get their food twice a week. And they gave us the idea of a kind of protecting God, and some fruits, some sheep, some flowers, and I think there was sea, and there were animals from Bible. So we made a sketch, and then we invited those people who participated in the brainstorming, and they were adults. They were all adults, and we gave them brushes, and they painted it. Yeah. So you can use it. Maybe you've got some your own ideas how to use this tool. Can you please share? Maybe there was a kind of insight you had, like, oh my God, I can use it in this educational programs or something. Was there something of that kind? No? Nothing?
If I may have a question. Sorry.
Yeah, of
I want
course.
to say that it's good idea to show your express. I like your story about when you said that the teacher and the psychology and the artist work with the children, and I think it can be good way to change our draw lesson, because in school, how I remember, draw lessons looks like, okay, I'm a teacher. We will paint this, paint, please. But we can use that for young. I don't know, will bit work with more adult student like with a teenager, because it's too hard to change their way of thinking. But for small children, not small, like when they are came in the middle school, it can, or it can be good possibility to, and I would concentrate by the feelings, like art therapy.
Yeah. The part of such projects are a kind of art therapy, but the art therapy is not only when you are painting and meditating and relaxing during painting, right? But there is a huge stage before this, just explaining your ideas, making advocacy of your ideas. And what is very important for this kind of education, the students who are involved, they can be also adults, of course. They have the whole educational project from the very beginning, because it starts with they have to defend their ideas before their parents, before school authorities, before the mayor of the city, because this is a public wall. And there is a specific permission to use this public wall only if everyone agrees that you can do it. It is worth doing it. So the students, they are also taught to make advocacy of their ideas. And they discuss what narratives they want to show to the public and what is very personal, and how to find the line, how to tell about personal things in an appropriate for public way. Then they have to cooperate, they have to discuss, and they have to decide whose idea to use, whose idea not to use. And that's a kind of hard for students, for young people who are very passionate, because you can't show everything what every person is drawing. You have to combine ideas into concepts, and everyone has to do it together. So this is the way how communication is also developed. And then the students have to organize the project presentation and explain to the community what is it and why it is, and why their voice matters and what it is made for. So I think there are a lot of layers how it can be used for educational purposes. Thank you for your idea, not to ask simply paint. Yeah, that should be deeper. I agree.
Thank you so much. Next is Nikita.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude because I found the presentation extremely fascinating, and I've never thought that public art can be actually that powerful. For some reason, it was just, to me, I didn't view those murals as something life-changing in some ways. But yeah, the slides that were showing the statistics, how the accidents on the road decreased, and well, that part, it was like mind-blowing to me. And well, I just thought, like, the previous speaker mentioned something about drawing in schools, and well, yeah, I would agree. I also had this particular issue, but I'm not much of a painter myself, so I don't really like pay much attention to drawing, but the takeaway that I found from your presentation is when you took some natural sciences and sciences in general, like in those schools, and students combined those, well, their ideas about physics and chemistry, geography, and all different subjects. And I find this particularly fascinating because I think that it can significantly improve the general knowledge of students, because sometimes it's difficult to, I don't know, to read the book on physics and understand everything straight away. And well, you need time. And I think projects of this kind could actually substantially increase the general knowledge of the population on a particular issue. So I'm very inspired by that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Nikita, for your comments. Yeah, don't be afraid if you have to use a ruler to draw something, because we are told that artists are not allowed to use rulers. But this is the modern world with contemporary art, and you can use whatever you want. So that's absolutely okay. And just as a comment, Mural Arts Philadelphia, I saw on their website an interesting short video about how, can you imagine how painting can be combined with physical training lessons? And imagine this is in a way of how movements are used for painting, like quick movements, slow movements, strict or relaxed movements when you take a brush. And I just thought about, oh my God, I know it from Chinese painting, because in Chinese painting, when you take a brush, you know, like there are, if I'm not mistaken, 4 types of strokes. A stroke symbolizing air, which is very light and transparent, symbolizing metal, which is very strict and intense, symbolizing fire, which is a kind of curly. And this is how people use a kind of movement algorithm in their everyday life. And that's a good idea also to think about movements and our muscles, not about our intellectual ideas while we are painting, and how we can use those different algorithms. For example, what kind of stroke, brush stroke, you can use when you plan to show something. Just using the method is the same important as using the idea. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Manya?
May I say?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I don't change my names in Latin.
That's okay.
Okay. I want to say that your idea is good, but I want say too that I have experience where I made photo reportage. I don't know.
Photo report, yeah.
Photo report in a really bad rayon in the city, and I see a part of mural which the government, local government do, and part mural which the local people do, or maybe artists not local but without helping by the side of the government. And I want to say that I remember that you say that it's important to speak with people and have a product discussion with them, with people who live there. And it's really important because the mural which do a government, they without sense and without feelings of this place, But when I did photos of murals which do another people without government help, it makes more sense and the feelings about this place. I don't think that it really helped for this rayon because I don't feel I don't think that I will feel safe in the place with a lot of mural where I see a guy who is drunk or a really poor madam. It makes the city, this place, more happy, but the problems is deeper. Maybe I want to research it deeper. But how you said, I want to cross line to add that it's really important to discuss with the local people where we want to draw, because it's more sense and aesthetic, and it's played together.
Absolutely, absolutely, Julia. Thank you for pointing some attention to it. Of course, if this is your house, like a high-storied building, of course, you have to discuss from the very beginning, not only the idea, people should participate, people who live in this house, whose wall it is, but also we ask questions about what colors you are thinking about. Should it be dark and dramatic to influence, or you won't just be like very light and show flowers? Because people live there, they have right to see or not to see it. That's very important. And the line between governmental programs and grassroots programs, I would like also to mention that the organization I'm talking to you about in Philadelphia, which is called Mural Arts Philadelphia, there is a beautiful website they have. This is NGO, non-governmental organization also. And usually they are financed on the 30% by governmental structures like behavioral health departments and city government. But all the rest is received from private donors. People just help to make the murals. Because when you are students and you have this wonderful idea, of course, you need some budget, and there is only a small sum you have. You can ask the university director to give you small amount. Then you can ask some businesses to add some small amounts of money. And it happens like that. And of course, I told you a lot of beautiful things about public art, especially visual art like murals. But to be absolutely honest, of course, there are minuses. And this is what you were talking about. The problem that the neighborhood isn't safer after 2 or 3 murals appear. It means there is not enough of time and to check how safer it is, and there is not enough of initiatives. For example, well, when you make a mural, it would be nice also to ask local government to repair the pavements near the mural, for example, for the people in wheelchairs to come and see it, and to give their street lights near the mural to make it safer. Because some countries like America, some Mexican cities, and some Asian countries, which have a lot of mural programs, after 20 or 30 years, they have shown an interesting results. There were abandoned, depressed neighborhoods where they implemented mural arts programs. And a lot of tourists came to those neighborhoods because people like making photographs, selfies, and everything. When tourists come, there are small coffee shops opening in this neighborhood. there are more lights, there is more light, there is more small businesses like souvenir businesses and coffee and I don't know, bakeries, businesses. And the minus of such initiatives is, which we don't pronounce because we are so far away from this result, is growing segregation. It means poor people who lived in those neighborhoods, after the neighborhoods became popular with tourists and small businesses, their rent for the apartments, it raised and it became more expensive to pay it. So those poor people, they had to rent somewhere far away from that place because their direct income didn't raise, you see. So yeah, there are some problems, but to come to this problem, we have to work like for 20 or 30 years and then see whether we can correct it. But it is not European experience. There is no such a case in Europe. Any other comments?
I would like actually to ask you, what do you think about Banksy street art? Because I think he's one of the most famous in the world street artist who is actually also a political activist, and he's drawing all those also murals in different parts of the world where you know, different bad situations are going on, or wars as well. So what do you think?
In general, or you're asking about specific aspects?
In general.
In general, okay. Yeah, that's really interesting because at the beginning I told you that the mural arts in Philadelphia was made just against murals, against graffiti, right? So graffiti artists are considered here illegal and not educated as artists. Banksy for me, of course, he is a wonderful artist, but he will never be so expensive, for example, like Yayoi Kusama or someone else who also works in public space. Why? Because first of all, Banksy's style is based on the style of another French artist, Black Lerat, which was also making white and black graffiti of the same style. So it's not something absolutely new. Then we don't know the name of Banksy.
Yeah.
Actually, it's Robin, I don't remember the surname, Robin. Oh, I forgot. Okay. But yeah, people don't care about the name. They are fascinated by this teenager spirit he demonstrates. And we are not even searching internet to find his name. There is his name in the internet and his manager's name, but we are not interested because we feel a kind of teenagers who come somewhere at night and makes this art intervention. I'm thinking about this, that perhaps it started like this. But now, when I'm thinking critically, and everyone has to think critically about pieces of art, you see, you understand that in New York, for example, he has works on a very high skyscraper. And it's impossible to get there at night without any equipment, you know, and without permission, because you will be arrested, right? And it means like there is a kind of myth. And this is a very like youth myth about young people, about breaking the rules and everything. Yes, he's using very deep political topics, and I'm very thankful to him for making murals in Ukraine. But I'm also thinking that he couldn't be allowed to go to the war front in Ukraine unless he registered officially and everything. So it wasn't a secret intervention. Another lack of meaning Banksy has. His works are wonderful, but this is the level of pop art, not the pop art of Andy Warhol, because Andy Warhol had multiple layers of explanation of his works. Banksy has 1 or 2 layers, not very deep, but easily readable things. Easy readable things are very good for public art. That's true, because you know the narrative exactly. That's true. So he is a good public artist, but as a deep artist from the capital letter A, he's not so deep, I think. This is my opinion, of course, very subjective.
I think that he's kind of unique. That's why you said that. I think that he's unique just because he's actually drawing all of this, all his art in youth style, but he's an adult, and that's why it makes, you know, like impression on people. And also because his art is everywhere in the most, you know, hot points of our world. That's why he's also let's say famous artist. Maybe not the best, but famous. You know, he's like he's communicating something different than just art, and I think that's why it makes him unique.
Yeah, and I would also define his works as artivism, art plus activism, right? So it's like poster art. It has a narrative pushing us to change in the world. And in terms of this, he's very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If we still have time, I would like to ask a question as well. Given that you mentioned Banksy and Ukraine, I wanted to ask you about the Ukraine scene and maybe your predictions or intuitions how mural art will influence the post-war situation in your country. Do you have any thoughts on that? If you could share them.
Well, I hope it will be absolute expansion of mural arts in Ukraine after the war stops. If you ask me about the favorite mural in Ukraine, which I have, unfortunately, I haven't prepared it because I didn't know about the question, but there is a mural in Kyiv. Maybe some students who are from Ukraine even can remember this famous picture. This is a picture on a skyscraper, a picture of a girl, and you think first that she is in her embroidery dress, embroidered black, embroidered with traditional Ukrainian embroidery dress. But then when you look more attentively, you can see that she's not wearing the dress. She is putting the dress on her, and her face isn't happy but surprised, as if she is thinking, oh my God, is it mine or not? Does it fit or not? Is it my deep identity or not? And it's so philosophical, though it was criticized a lot, that it's so deep, and it makes me happy that mural arts can be so deep, reflecting identity and influencing identity of people who live in the city, in the country. And I also noticed that the best murals in Kyiv, in the capital, they were made within their international art programs. When artists from all over the world were invited to Kyiv to work in public spaces, on the walls, in the underground stations, and people from all over the world were rethinking the ideas, the symbols, and the future of Ukraine, using their own experience outside of this country and their knowledge of different other situations. As a result, we have wonderful works, the most beautiful works, because it's always very difficult to work just, you know, in your bubble, visual, mental, language bubble. So I hope after the war stops, We will have a lot of open airs, plein airs, and different international festivals to invite artists from all over the world to think about how to transform our country to the better, to lighter, to a more successful one. And I would also mention, yeah, like if you have, we had a question, had we?
Yes, actually
yes,
3
please.
questions. The first is
wonderful.
Anton, Anton, then Evgenia, then I will allow Dasha to
wonderful.
speak, and then Yulia will come back to you.
Okay, and what about Banksy? Maybe more than 1 month ago, I had opportunity to visit art art exhibition in the Krakow, and there was Banksy. And
I visited
yes.
it in America.
Okay, yes, and first of all, as for me, firstly, it was something strange, because firstly, it's like very simply, and what about art? It's not simply, I say simply, not only about Banksy, or I say simply like for public art, and because for me, like more deeply is Michelangelo maybe, and something similar to this, but then I understand idea of this way, because modern person hasn't got more time, and for instance, a person can go through this wall and see this picture, and this picture can be in his or her mind, and that's why he or she can get new ideas. And I have question, because I'm convinced that we need to implement art like a fundamental lesson in the school, because I remember my art in the school and at the school, and it was strange. It was very strange, and I have question: how we need to present art for children, and how we need to explain art, and which part of education it should be, and how we can like compare eternal art like Michelangelo and for instance Banksy, how it should be.
Well, this is a good question, and I think that art lessons shouldn't be only about how to make art, but how to understand art, of course. And it should be a kind of a narrative from the very beginning, from the cave painting. And the history of art should be given to children. And I saw such projects in some museums when children, they took art course. And at the first lesson, they were painting like people who lived in caves, I don't know, like millions years before, like, you know, the first people who were painting animals and painting their palms in the caves. So they did the same, and then they painted, after everything, they painted just small abstracts from Michelangelo works, like a bird from Michelangelo work, or something like a cloud or something. Then they made donuts, which were painted on Andy Warhol works. Then they were spraying, they just dropping the paint on the canvas as Jackson Pollock did, you know, and they understood that this is like literature. people start with primitive thinking, like telling myths, then fairy tales, then complex literature appears. And then there is a concept, like I don't know, like a Chinese poem. There can be only 3 words, but there can be so much inside of those words, so many associations, so many links for different ideas, you know. So this is the time, Anton, I think you are partially right that we don't have time now. The world is so fast. But another thing about art now is we have photography now. So we don't really functionally need very, very well painted art. But what we do really need is ideas. And you can just quickly draw something, and it can be a wonderful idea, like Banksy does. He uses just black and white, and he can make his work after home preparation. He can make it for, I don't know, 20 minutes. But the idea can be so readable that the effect sometimes can be equal to Michelangelo. I'm thinking right now if I can send a picture to chat. Does anyone know anything about how to do it?
I'm not sure you can actually.
Okay, I think, let me see if I can, I think I can open it. If we have some seconds and some students are really interested in Banksy, I will try just to open it on my screen. Give me a second.
And by the way, what about Banksy? There is very good picture in Mariupol, and as for me, yes, and as for me, it's really it really has a deep idea. Yes.
Yeah, I'm very thankful to Banksy. Yeah, that he could attract attention to Ukraine in an art way. Okay, if I can share my. I see. Yes. Just a second. I'm thinking about a Banksy work if I can open it. Okay, I hope you will see this work. This is for you, the task for interpretation. How can you comment it? Who can?
I think it's something connected with the food that we are eating, but it's not a food like the physical one, but maybe the entertainment food that we're. But it's kind of. I think that it's it has a really deep meaning, but maybe not. You know, I think that sometimes they are drawing something and they're putting one sense in that, and we're taking it in totally another one. And then people are thinking, oh my God, what does it mean? So for me, it's something connected with maybe a problem with the people who are in poor situation with money and everything connected with that. And also with the food that we're taking, for example, from television, because it's also entertainment. Yeah, but I think that I just treated it like a really deep meaning, and I think it has totally another one meaning.
Yeah. Any other ideas, please, about the figures? Who are they? What are they representing?
Well, I actually know the reference to the main figure in this painting. It is a picture of a girl from Vietnam who was hurt by Americans napalm. I don't know if I pronounce it
Absolutely,
right, but
yes, Kirill.
it is actually one of the most terrifying pictures I've ever seen. because people cannot just simply read off napalm when it gets on the skin, on the clothes. People to take off everything, and he, as I can remember, it was Mickey Mouse and Ronald McDonald or something. The two main symbols of Western American civilization, and I think it was the protest against American ways to bring democracy to some of the so-called third world countries.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this comment. How did you know it? Where did you read the information?
Well, I just know a lot of usual stuff.
No, I'm asking you about the source. Was this information told in description of Banksy's works, or you combined information from different sources?
I am subscribed on different publics connected to historical photography, and this exact and I've read the exact story of this picture, which is shown on the screen now. It is.
Thank you so much. I'm so thankful you told us about this story, because actually when I visited Banksy's exhibition, there was no information about where is this photo taken from. And it was just a short explanation about how international corporations capture people's attention and how corrupted they are. But actually, it's so much deeper, and the image is so tragic that thank you so much for this education you gave to us. Thank you, Kirill.
Dasha?
Yes, first of all, thank you a lot for all that you've told. And when you was talking about the manual in Kiev, thanks a lot for it, because I didn't know about it, sadly. And I remembered manuals in my city, and then now I'm in Krakow, and I have such a question for you. Do you see a possibility of such paintings, street paintings in historical cities? Is there a place for such manuals in historical cities, or only in modern, or where? Is there like rules?
Of course, yeah, of course it's easier, not easier, but usually they put monuments in historical places, but murals are also needed, and there are different kinds of murals, which sometimes can be proved by local authorities. I know that an American mural artist was trying to make a mural in the center of Kiev, and during the whole year he couldn't receive the permission for it. Although there is some status of some buildings, for example, like schools, for which the authorities of those organizations, they have right to confirm painting something on their walls. So some organizations which own those buildings, they can give permission. So it is also available. And yeah, I think they should be in historical places, but of course, on the other hand, it should be very highly controlled and discussed a lot about the narratives, because you know how easily the narratives are changed about everything. Like, for example, in documentary photography, if we see a dead body tortured in the street, and this is a documentary photography, for example, from the Russian war in Ukraine, we have absolutely different feelings if we think this is a Russian soldier who is an invader, and this is not the place for him to come. Or you can think, oh my God, this is a Ukrainian soldier who died protecting his family. And we are seeing the same image, but we have different feelings. So we have to be very, very precise with the narratives, with the, you know, the hidden ideas we have, with the colors and everything. Of course, we have to discuss, but I believe it is quite possible. The last mural, community mural I made using this technology was a mural in my city, Sumy City in Ukraine. And believe me or not, it was made on cemetery where the soldiers of the recent war were buried recently. And we brainstormed the mothers and the wives and the kids of those people who died. And I was in America, I was drawing it here digitally, and I was using their photographs of real people. I was using screenshots of the last messages those people sent to me. I was drawing their tattoos. I was drawing their things they loved. And I combined everything into mural. And then we were thinking what kind of colors we can use at the cemetery. Should they be just very simple colors like grayscale colors or not? And then we decided like, no, those people, they deserved bright life. And we used absolutely bright pink, yellow, blue, green, you know, and it is possible only because those specific people, they decided it to be like that. And then when you have this wonderful project, you can go to the city council and say, like, this is not an idea of one artist. This is the idea of 50 mothers and kids and wives. And they deserve their vision to be in this city, in this place. And yeah, it was approved, we did it. So I believe that you have to be very trustworthy, very transparent, very cooperative, and everything is possible.
Thanks.
Thank you for your question.
Evgenia?
Yes, I don't have a question really, but I wanted to say thank you because it was really exciting to listen about a topic which we don't talk about as often and don't delve deeper into its meaning as often. As you rightly said, it's important for us to understand that we have resources, even if we don't have money that we didn't think about, but which can change the mental state of others so easily. So I remembered an art event was held at my school in which children participated and they helped artists paint the walls of the dining room on recess. I think there were some fairy tale scenes, but I had already read. Yes, so
thank you, Evgenia. This is another idea I forgot to mention. You can make a mural inside a public building, not on the outside. This is the decision.
Yes, but I had already graduated, so I wasn't a part of this activity. But my friend's little sister, she kept talking about how much more fun it was going to school for those 10 minutes when she painted the wall. So I never gave it any importance, but it was interesting for me. It was new for me during the lecture to think of public art about murals, not only as a reflection of collective memory, but simply as a way to increase children's motivation, to try new things, to improve their mood, and to show that learning and studying is not only like memorizing terms and formulas. So thank you again for information and for some insights I had.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now it's Julia again, and then Arseny, and I think this is unfortunately going to be the last two people speaking, and then we'll move to the private group conversation.
Okay. maybe I'm so active here, but I want to say first about your thinking of the artists who will go in Ukraine and thinking about our art with. And you said only about artists abroad, but I want to say it must be important to invite, and maybe the main star of this discussion must be Ukrainian artists, because now we come back to our memory, and we start to see and thinking about Ukrainian artists, Ukrainian people who create, and I think it's important to not to invite the first must be our artists, because they understand our history, our context, and it must be to work with another artist who will come to us and maybe innovate our thinking, but we mustn't to invite their culture and their thinking without our interpretation. And the second about I don't remember who said about art for children, that children understand, and he said about Michelangelo. I don't remember, sorry, but I want to say if we want, it's my opinion, if we want to interested children in art, we can't to show, for example, children of the 5th grade, class, I don't know how to call
yeah, 5th grade, yeah.
Yeah, we can't to show their Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci. They don't understand that. But for example, if we want to say about art with these children, we can start to speak about Maria Primachenko, their naive art, which understandable for children, because it's a magic animal that they can draw too. Or for example, all the naive art, it's a more similar for and understandable for them, because it's the way of magic that they can draw, and the way what it's the a way how draw a cartoon. It's
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Your ideas are brilliant. Of course, it goes without saying, because I'm an artist, I didn't even pay attention how I pronounced, but of course, I absolutely agree that all international open airs, they are organized with 50% of local artists. And they are organized just to mix people, to exchange ideas, and to live together for 1 month, and to draw together and do everything together. Of course, I do support that local artists could have the floor here. And talking about Maria Primachenko, thank you so much. We won't compare it with Michelangelo or someone. Of course, they are just different. But I'm thankful for paying attention to it, because most of contemporary artists, they are looking for the same way how Maria Primachenko thought. And if you see at Picasso's works, for example, Guernica, you can see those primitive animals also there, because he was looking for their simple, sincere, open-hearted language, which is not spoiled by schools. So yeah, wonderful, thank you.
And I have the general question. So how do you think how to use public art for revitalizing education in Ukraine after the post-war period?
That's a very difficult question, because what I think about community murals, you already know. But the question of public art is Ukraine is very serious right now in terms of, as you know, even during the war, there is a huge sculpture, so-called Motherland in Kyiv, which is the part of Second World War memorial, and which is the tallest monument in Europe, and which is having Soviet coat of arms here. And there was the questionnaire in our app called Dia, what to do with this monument. And unfortunately, people were limited in options, whether to leave it as it is, or just take away the coat of arms, or put Ukrainian trident instead of the Soviet coat of arms. But because people don't have a lot of public art education, they are not thinking about other variants, which are already used in different countries. For example, a lot of monuments are remade in the US because people's vision on Black slavery and discrimination has changed during the years after the monuments were built. So the monuments can be not only demolished or changed parts, but some monuments are packed into mirrors, sarcophags. Some monuments are absolutely changed using different materials. They are covered with the walls of museums, and they are rethought in many different ways. So I think in Ukraine, we will have to face again the problem of Soviet and colonial monuments and their narratives. And the problem is that most of them, like monuments and mosaics, they are really wonderful pieces of art. And there are always people protecting pieces of art because they are beautiful. So I believe that we have to be a European leader in contemporary rethinking of memory and oblivion in post-Soviet cities. We have to use the European experience of Germany, who had to rethink Holocaust public art reflection and Second World War reflection and German nation's participation. And they have a lot of wonderful ideas about how to work with monuments. For example, there was a monument in Germany, which was a column which was going underground centimeter and centimeter every year. And people were allowed to write names on this, of this column, on this stellar, and what they think about the war and names of people they lost in the war. And every year, this column was lower and lower and lower. And now there is an empty space on the monument basement because the column had sank underground, symbolizing our memory, that memory disappears and changes into something else. And this is also a brilliant idea how to work with the monuments and the memory of the monuments and how reconstruct the memory of our past in the cities. So I believe, unfortunately, we will need a lot of budget money for this. Again, building multi-agent model with scientists, historians, artists, philosophers, because we have to build this new contemporary narrative about the humanity and whether people still have something human in their hearts and whether our animal nature can be controlled and our past can be controlled and our future can be built on this past.